Guys, once again, thank you for watching. Today we're right here with the Councilwoman for the 2nd District, Corazon Pineda-Isaac. Took time from her busy schedule to sit down with us on her first Cyber Town Hall. Before we start, guys, we hope that you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we wish you have a beautiful Christmas and a prosperous New Year.
Definitely. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Yonkers Voice. Thank you, Ben, for having me, and I'm happy to be here and answer questions on my first, what did you call them?
Cyber Town Hall.
Cyber Town Hall. Exciting.
It's a good thing because I know you have your, council meetings,
right?
But lots of people cannot come in because, they're just coming out of work. They have children at home. At least here they can be at work and watching.
Definitely.
And participating. Well, Corazon, let me tell you something that impressed me the other day. I was talking to this little girl in the square, just talking, seeing, picking her mind, see what she thinks. Would you like to be a politician? She said she wanted to be just like you when she grows up.
No way.
Yes, a little girl, maybe 8, 9 years old, which is wonderful.
That's so great.
Which is wonderful when somebody looks at you as an inspiration.
Definitely.
For something that she wants to be like when she grows up.
Definitely.
Now, before we go into too much of the politics, what are your hopes? Because I've been here zooms that Corazon is aiming for something else soon.
I know. I think that when you're in office, it's just natural for people to always assume what's the next step, or she's aiming for this, and she's aiming for that. But in reality, my main focus right now is to finish out this term, and I think that my immediate next step is to run for re-election. And that's what I have right now on the horizon.
You see, you becoming a true politician. Because that's the answer that politicians do give.
I have one more term left.
Yeah.
So then that's really what I have in mind.
No plans.
It's not that I have no plans, it's that that's my immediate term. And the things with politics is that once I finish out my term on the city council, then you see what's available. So I can't say, I'm going to run for mayor, I'm going to run for council president, I'm going to run for assembly, I'm going to run for senate, because you have to know what seats are available, what seats are open, what seats are, able to be contested, and I can't see that far ahead. How fluid are things? We didn't know that, I didn't even know that I have an opportunity to run for a 3rd term, and now I do. So again, things change so much that to me, it just makes sense to focus on what I know is certain.
I like that answer, but I'm a reporter, or at least I think I am. I'll always tell the guys I'm just a guy with an iPhone that runs around.
Okay.
But we have aspirations.
I do. I would love to continue work in government. That's absolutely certain. I would love to grow in my career as an elected official. I don't know what that means yet, the growth, but I definitely want to continue. Okay. So I will not stop at city council. I definitely want to continue.
Serving the people.
Serving the people. It's one of my best callings, one of my most gratifying careers, and I just really love what I do. So I do want to continue. Good.
Now, guys, this is a Cyber Town Hall. We broadcasting these live, so you can ask questions. But remember our very basic rule. Your questions must be presented in a polite and respectful manner. If you don't, you will be bounced from all Yonkers Voice platforms. So we want our elected officials to be comfortable, when they come and they talk to us and they talk to you. They're not here to be insulted. They're not here to be disrespectful. They're here to answer questions that you might have. They might not like the question, but that's okay, as long as you present your question in a respectful and polite manner.
Definitely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Corazon, promises. Promises made, promises kept.
Mm-hmm.
What were promises that you made, some of them, that you have not fulfilled, or those that you have fulfilled? You want to talk about them?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest things that I am very proud of is that I wanted to put money towards a new community center in Southwest Yonkers, specifically my district. And early on in my tenure in city council, I was able to allocate $1 million. And now, we have the Day Spring Community Center, which is still under a lot of construction, but thanks to that commitment from the city, they were able to secure more funding from donors, secure more funding through other resources, and that community center is well on its way. There actually is going to be a groundbreaking for, they're building affordable housing right next door, because that project is just so much more than a community center. And through my advocacy, we were able to really propel that development forward. I'm so happy, and that's been done with West Hab. This is a great organization. Also, some of my promises and things that I aim to continue to work for, are the protection of tenants and people. To make sure that their rights are protected. I'm sorry, the word I could have lost me, but they're protected. So one of the things I did was I introduced legislation that would occur if displacement were to happen if it was at the fault of the landowner. I'm sorry, the property owner. When through much communications with legal and a lot of committee meetings, we realized that the city really can't impose that because tenant and landlord law are subjected to state. So now we're in the process of sending that legislation to the state in hopes that the state will pick it up. And I'm going to be in communication with our state legislators to hope that they'll consider it, because they've already done so much with the Tenants Protection Act that they've put in place for tenants. So we hope that this is something additional that they'll pick up for those landlords who let their boilers go into ruins, who don't provide heat, and who displace residents because of negligence. So that's one thing we're hoping to accomplish. In addition to that, my goal is also to continue to increase funding to non-for-profits, because a lot of the good work that happens in the city happens through non-for-profits. So places like the YWCA, the YMCA, I mentioned West Hab, Cluster, all these different organizations provide so many services that are, they complement what the city does, but really they do so much more that they're experts in. So I think our role as a city is to continue to increase funding. So when I say, we need more funding for tenants to go to court and have a lawyer, that comes from some of these organizations like Cluster that provides support for residents. We need more support for children after school. The YW, the YMCA provides the support. So whereas the city doesn't necessarily have an after school center here in City Hall, we can fund these organizations with more money so that they can expand their programs. And that's what I've been doing and have been fighting for.
Before we're going too far, because then there is, I want to ask a question here and there.
Of course.
Even between the council people.
Yeah.
And especially the people from Yonkers, your district, Shanea's district, first and second. It looks like the lines are not so well marked. People don't know if it's you, if it's her. What is your area exactly? It goes from where to where?
So it's still hard to explain per se. So I have Southwest Yonkers, which includes all of Northern Hill. It includes some of Park Hill, which I share with Michael Sabatino. So, for example, if you go on Rumsey Road, I have one side of the street and he has the other.
Exactly.
And it's just the way lines
You call
are
your
drawn.
councilwoman, no, you call your councilman,
Well, what I say to someone, if you're not sure who your council member is, like if you think it's me but you're not sure, I would say call my office anyway, because I'm not going to turn you away because you're across the street or you're not in my district. I'm always going to help you and find a solution. And also, if you're not in my council district, I will inform a council member that I'm working with you, and they should be aware of something that's happening with you. But I shouldn't.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Now, you mentioned Northern Hill,
Park Hill,
Elm Street, Park Hill,
Ludlow Park. So we're talking about Hawthorne Avenue, Sunnyside, some of Sunnyside, not all of Sunnyside, Beechwood.
Now, Corazon, you have a tough area, okay? Not just on the things that you just spoke about, but also crime, violent crime. The areas that you represent are the toughest areas in Yonkers.
100%.
When it comes to crime, okay? And I go there to cover a lot of the things that happen in Yonkers. I talk to people, and they all have one complaint: too much crime, not enough police. Okay, I guess one thing connects to the other. Mm-hmm. At least that's how they see it.
That's how they see it, yeah.
And what are your plans to address those issues?
So it's interesting because, there's the headline that Yonkers is the second safest city. And it's not just a headline, it's actually a fact. But I understand how people can be frustrated when you live on Elm Street or you live on Victor or Linden or wherever, and you feel like, well, it doesn't feel like the second safest city in America of its size. So I'm very empathetic to being careful to say that when in my district, because I want people to know Yonkers, the city as a whole, is safe, but we understand that there are still pockets that need improvements. And I think that, we definitely would love to put more resources into the police department to add more police officers and increase manpower. It's just a budgetary issue. So as long as we can find the money and, we could fund these positions, we would be happy to do it.
Now,
it's just our most difficult thing to do.
You see, those are the things. We want these, but we don't want that. If we want to get more police officers on the street, that comes to a cost.
For the city, it does.
For the city.
It does.
And when the city has an extra cost, somebody has to pay for it. And that's the people who live in that city.
Right.
So we want a better protection. We want better services. We want better this and better that.
Right.
All that comes within a cost.
Right.
Now, is the problem a budgetary cost issue or is a management issue?
It's both, to be honest. There's been structural mismanagement that has happened for many, many, many years, right? So when you come into administration, it doesn't get fixed within one term, 2 terms. It really is.
How many times?
Well, you got to look at how long it took to get there. That's potentially how long it might take. And the reason sometimes it's difficult is because, you have different people who govern different ways. So maybe when some progress starts happening, a new council member comes in or a new mayor comes in. So I think that's the very difficult part with government. So, but we're doing our best.
No, I know. You're doing your best. Yonkers has improved.
We have significantly. Our schools are doing much better. They're actually doing really, really well. Our statistics of children that are going to college and how well they're doing and the colleges they're getting into, that has improved dramatically. Yonkers public schools are really, they're doing tremendous work, even with the limited resources that they have. So yes, it all comes at a cost. We want more police on the streets. That costs money. We definitely want to fund our schools as much as we can and get more support from this, to get more funding from the state. But it all comes at a cost to somebody. So the things that we work towards. But at the same time, we find ways to get creative. We find ways to fight and find places for the things that we really, really feel that that can't falter. So that's how we manage.
So since we are talking about now police crime improvement and how can we improve, right. We just got a new police commissioner, Mr. John Mueller.
Yeah.
Prior commissioner retired. Mm-hmm. We wish him the best. But now we have a new sheriff in town. One of the problems from the past was overtime within the police department.
Right.
That brought cost of running the police department high. Now we have a new police commissioner that is addressing those issues. Yes, overtime can never be eliminated because sometimes there is a need for it.
No, absolutely.
Right?
There's things you can't foresee.
You cannot foresee that. A police officer makes an arrest at the end of his shift. Mm-hmm. He needs to end that report. He cannot say, well, it's time for me to go, punch out, you can go home. Right. If I catch another day, early in the morning, we will continue this report. It has to finish. So that overtime is extremely necessary. But there is other overtimes that maybe we could do without it. Has the council, you have talked to the police commissioner to see what is he doing different this time around, or it's something that you don't get involved in?
No, we do. We actually have had those conversations, and first, obviously, we're very happy for Commissioner Mueller and his new appointment and his new career as commissioner of the Yonkers Police Department. And I'm someone who loves change. I think it's a great thing for the city because it brings a new perspective, it brings a new voice, it brings new leadership. So I'm excited to see what Commissioner Mueller, what kind of things he's going to bring to the department and to its finances and to, the city management because, we fund the police department. So we absolutely have raised our concerns to the commissioner, overtime being one of them. And, he has ideas and he has things that he wants to put in place. So now when we come through our first budget season, we'll see what kind of things, what kind of changes we've seen, and how do we move forward. So I think the first step is to let him lead the men and women of the Yonkers Police Department, let him manage that, and then see how that turns out. But he is aware of the things that we want to see and what kind of things we want to see decrease, such as overtime.
Yonkers Voice is a large social platform, and we get a lot of emails, people that are happy with you, people that are not happy with you, people that are happy with the appointment of John Mueller as the commissioner, people that are not happy with him. And I always tell people, look, the commissioner was just appointed to a position. You have to be fair and at least give him some time, to implement his ideas and his changes.
Right.
Now let's revisit if you're happy or if you're not happy a year from now.
Absolutely. And that's my perspective too. If your initial if your initial feeling was that, I would have preferred someone else, you can have those feelings, but at some point has to be let go, and then you have to let people lead, have to let people really give them the opportunity to to show what they have to offer. And I think that's what we have to do with everyone. Just let them show what they have to offer and give every people a chance.
Exactly, because it doesn't matter who gets appointed to which position.
Absolutely.
You're never going to have everybody happy with that appointment.
No, not at all.
Always some people, I wish that person, I wish that person, I wish that person. But at the end of the day, we must give the person a chance to execute his ideas, to implement changes, and then with a fairly amount of time, now let's talk about, is it working?
Right.
Now, economic growth in Yonkers. Look, Corazon, I've been living in Yonkers for 40 years, maybe longer than you've been around. And I have seen Yonkers at its worst. I remember South Broadway, across from McDonald's. You don't, probably. Those buildings were all burnt out. Talk about that, we talk about Lawrence, we talk about Southbright, everywhere. If you come here today, let's say you lived in Yonkers in the 70s, the 80s, you were moved and now you come back. You see a whole different Yonkers. But there is a price for that. There is an invoice that comes with all that growth. People that have been living in Yonkers for 40 years can no longer afford to live in Yonkers because those rents, they are unbelievable high. How do we sync those two things? Okay, you've been in Yonkers, we want you to continue to live in Yonkers, but we want you to be able to afford living in Yonkers. How do you manage that?
Right. So it's one of the biggest, I guess you can call crises in Westchester County. So to step back a little bit, the county did a housing needs study, and what they showed was that we were in need in significant amount of housing, and that Yonkers is one of the places that actually needs a lot of that housing, so affordable housing for people to live in, because people are paying more than 50% of their income for living expenses, and it shouldn't be that way. So I think, yes, development is great. It's a positive thing, and obviously, like you said, you saw Yonkers when those burned buildings were there, and a lot of dilapidation and more crime and a lot of things, and now it's uplifting itself, and you see all these beautiful new buildings,
beautifying Yonkers,
beautifying it, and it's a great thing. But like you said, how do we preserve the people that we have here, that have been here? One of the ways that we do that is the affordable housing ordinance. And right now, what we're trying to do as a council is strengthen that ordinance, so that not only do we increase the percentage that developers have to set aside for affordable housing units, but also, what kind of medium income do we use to allow people to move into those spaces? Because sometimes the definition of affordable is not affordable to many, or it's not affordable to a lot of people that really need these apartments.
I can afford the Mercedes-Benz 500. It's affordable to me, might not be affordable to you.
Absolutely. So we really have to be careful with, with what we call affordable, and then also with that, we have to work with more organizations like West Half, because they're building really, truly affordable housing. So if we can get those organizations to build more throughout the city, they build Lolo Commons, which is an affordable housing unit for all seniors, where they pay very minimal into their rent based on their income, and they're building the new Dayspring Commons. Is going to be next to the Dayspring Community Center. If we can get West Hab to build more of these new apartments, quality apartments for people at good prices, I think that's also a way. So it's going to be a mixture. It's going to be like a variety of many things. The affordable housing ordinance, organizations like West Hab, the city improving the housing that they have now. So it's really going to take a lot of work, a lot of ideas, and a lot of collaboration.
Now let's move into the homeless issue. Not far from the city hall,
No.
there used to be the homeless shelter.
Mm-hmm.
No longer there. Homeless people still stick around that area. One of the biggest issues in that area, at least when I spoke with business people, was that, I'm sorry to say, but that the homeless people were kind of messing up their business in a way.
No, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people didn't want to come and rent, like the ballroom as an example. I spoke with owner. He said, look, people go online, they see how a ballroom, they love it, they see the pictures, they want to come here and rent the place up for a wedding or an event. Once they park in a parking lot and they come out and they go through the sidewalk, or they look at the parking lot, seeing people defecating on the sidewalk, going to the bathroom, it's all over. Sometimes they just turn around, get back in the car and leave.
Mm-hmm.
That is messing up the local businesses. Not just in that aspect, but also crime. A lot of homeless and people, they have to get money one way or the other. Okay, so that's how they get it. They might mug you, they might steal, or people might not come to do business in that area because of that. How are we dealing with that situation? I know they moved, but they're still there.
They're still there because people gravitate to the place that they know, and if that's the area where they were, it's gonna still take some time to move them to a different area. But how do you work through that? And I think as a city, because homelessness, a lot of the services, they come from county services. So as a city, we obviously can't turn a blind eye, and we don't. So, how can we work through that? It's a very complex issue because it has so many components. In order to really impact the homelessness issues, we have to really do solutions that are not temporary. So people need services, whether it's mental health, abuse, substance abuse. They also need ways of income. So we have to find some way to get them integrated back into society with jobs and opportunities. They need a place to live. So yeah, we have the shelter, but some of these people, then when you get them to a place, they need permanent housing. So we have to figure out, again, building these truly affordable
Right.
places and providing people services and working with our police department. Because our police department, they do a lot of work with the homeless, because when a business is having issues, they're calling 911.
Police gets involved, exactly.
They're getting involved. But we're also very empathetic to know that people didn't choose to be homeless. Situations and life circumstances led them to be there. So we also have to be very careful that we realize that these are people, these are vulnerable people, that they too, want to better themselves and they want opportunities. And I think it's our human responsibility to make sure that we work towards, work with the county, work with the city, to getting those opportunities for people. So I spoke about funding. So the YWCA right now houses women, homeless women in their facility. And I heard great stories from a forum that was like a few weeks ago about all the work that they do. The church, the Kingdom Come, right now is just a temporary location. There are many other organizations that work with the homeless population. So I think one of the ways the city can help is by, maybe setting aside some funding, specific, just an additional funding. We already give these organizations, but if we can increase it just a little bit so that the work that they're already doing can further expand, I think that's a way that we can help.
Well, Corazon, you spoke about multiple components to the homeless issue.
It's so complex.
And there is also multiple types of homeless. There is people that are homeless because of mental illness issues.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot function. They
Right.
cannot work. There is other homeless
That work.
that actually work.
Absolutely.
They actually work, but they cannot afford the houses that are becoming to our beautiful Yonkers. They
Right.
just cannot afford it.
Right.
Okay, And now we have another component that was just added to the homeless problem in Yonkers, that after a while it becomes a Yonkers problem, regardless if they're coming from another city around, like New York City, dumping homeless in Yonkers. So the problems from there are being transferred to Yonkers. How are we addressing that issue of people coming from surrounding cities to Yonkers? And once they're here, they become Yonkers problem.
So I haven't yet thought of how do we address the New York City specific issue. So I don't have an answer to that. But you're right, it's something that's going to become a problem, it's going to become a Yonkers issue. So because these people, I believe, what I read was they're getting vouchers for living situations for a year, and then after that they're on their own. But if you haven't able to get yourself situated or stable within that year, you're going to fall into the same situation that you were before you had that voucher for your housing voucher, or whatever means it is for them to pay for housing for that year. And then again, it just exacerbates a problem that we already exist. So we do have to think about how do we solve that, because we can't fall into a routine where we're just like, shipping them back and forth. Like, I don't know how that's going to work. But we do have to think about something. So that's something that took me for me to write down in my notes to really discuss with the mayor and the council, to really think about, like, how are we going to deal with that issue?
Now, we had 30 minutes and we're reaching, time goes so fast when you're asking
when you're having fun, right?
Yeah. Now, Yonkers is no different than other cities around the United States with its problems. And I think just like in our own lives, we can see problems that might be on the horizon, that might be coming along the way. And in our personal lives, we try to take action to prevent that crash 2 years from now.
Definitely.
Like finances. If you spend everything you make, you know that in a few years you're going to have a problem.
Definitely.
Correct? So what problems do you see coming ahead of Yonkers if actions are not taken now to prevent those issues?
That's a great question. What problems do we see in the housing?
I can tell you one in my mind.
Tell me what the one you're thinking. While
I'm thinking about this thing that you guys talk all the time. Formula. Education formula.
Oh, I was going to mention education, right? But so definitely. So education, definitely. If we continue doing what we always done, right, we're going to continue seeing those same results. And where there's always, I think we always have, one of the things that we always see in Yonkers is a budget deficit. Very often we see, I think almost every year that I've been in office, we've seen one. So I think that, and one of the major things that we fund is the Yonkers Public Schools, our Board of Education. So I think, yes, one of the things that I would love to see change is the formula for the education formula for Yonkers Public Schools, the increase from funding that's going to come to our students. And I think that would definitely make such great changes and improvements in our city, and would help with the city finances, because all the extra funding would come. I think it's the same to the conversation that we spoke about. Housing. If we don't find, solutions to create more housing, to create more affordable housing, and really, create living conditions for people that are affordable, then we're going to continue to see more people fall into homelessness, right? Because these people that are working, but you said a lot of people are working but can't afford the rents. So we don't want those people to fall into homeless situations. And I think that for right now, those are the two main issues that I can foresee, that if nothing changes, we can continue to fall into the same cycle. But otherwise, I think things are happening. Things are going really great in Yonkers. We see a lot of good changes and a lot of good progress. So I think as long as we continue, even if it's little by little, we will get to a place where we're ultimately, mostly happy, because we'll never be entirely happy, because there's always a need for it to better ourselves and better our city and better the services that we have for our people. But right now, I think the two immediate are education and additional housing.
Now, I have to speak about one thing that, to me, it's very important: social justice and injustice.
Okay.
Relationship within local police department and community. I must say that I look around our country and I see issues that are happening in other places in the United States compared to our city in Yonkers. We live in a stable place. I'm not saying everything is perfect.
Right.
Okay? Not everything is perfect. There is always room for improvement.
Oh, absolutely.
Always, regardless. How do you see? Because you live in a district where most of the crimes happen, and with that comes most of the complaints and issues between the people of in those areas and the police department. Do you ever get any calls and look, I'm having a problem, or do you see anything that could be done to better the relationship between police and community? Even though personally, I think we have a great police department. Once in a while, I have issues with them, but that's okay. Okay, that's okay. I know the pressure of the job. I know that sometimes I get on their nerves. I'm too close. I understand that. Okay, but we have a good police department. But like I said, there is always room for a better improvement. And if there is a better improvement between police and community, we have a better society.
Yeah, no, there's definitely always room for improvement. But I think one of the reasons I personally have not received direct complaints from people regarding interactions with police. I know they're not there, but I personally haven't received them. But I think the reason that, you know, they might be there, but I haven't received them, is because they do a lot of great initiatives. So our police department, and I think
with a car.
All those things, they're small things, but you don't realize the impact that they have on communities, right? You don't realize the impact and the relationship that's being built, and the comfort level. And that is so helpful with the relationship with civilians and police, because if there's a level of comfort and trust and respect,
and there is a personal connection.
Right?
They know people by their first names.
And they just know that people that are behind the uniform, there's a person there, right? And that's what we want. We want people to know that these are people with a uniform and a job, but they're still people, right? And at the end of the day, they struggle with the same things that we struggle with. They have family members, and, you know, they have loved ones, and they're trying to also better themselves, and they're working to provide for their families. So they're just people, you know. And
they have stress days.
Absolutely.
Like any one of us.
That's why I think that we don't see a lot of things that we see nationally here in Yonkers, because we put so many things in place. Well, the Yonkers Police Department put so many things in place to counteract what they're seeing nationally, because they want to build that relationship and bridge that gap. Is there always room for improvement? Yeah. So if we're having 28, of these initiatives, let's have 32 next year.
Comes with
35,
a cost.
It comes with a cost, absolutely. So I think that's where there can be improvement. Let's continue to do more. Let's think of more creative ways. Halloween passed, and there was, excuse me, the Halloween police car giving out tons of candy in Lincoln Park.
I followed the story.
That was beautiful. And, there's so many people that was the first time that came up to me and said, I didn't know the police department does that. And I'm like, yeah, they've been doing it for a few years now. And I thought it was so great.
I'll tell you one thing. Police departments across the nation should be looking at Yonkers Police Department and learn a thing or two.
Absolutely. We went viral for, police officers jumping double dutch.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just these little things become big things, right? Because you put all these little things together and think about how many people they've touched, right? How many of the people, maybe 10 people witnessed Double Dutch Expo when they were there, but that's just 10 people more that felt humanized by a police officer, right? Because sometimes we don't see them as, like I said, people. We see them as just authority figures.
Yeah.
And I think just more of those activities could continue to help the relationship.
Corazon, but on the other side of the token, we have to blame sometimes the parents for creating a bad projection or perspective on how kids see police officers. I've seen parents when they're trying to punish a kid or maybe the kid misbehaved. Listen, if you don't do this, I'm going to call the police officer.
Oh.
So you create on the mind of this little kid not a good, positive projection of a police officer. So when they see a police officer, they're afraid of him or her.
I can understand that, absolutely. I mean, that's
Like you said, those
Yeah.
little things.
no, those little things, absolutely, because now you're subconsciously, making a negative connotation to police officers. I mean, I don't want to, attack anyone's parenting style because
No,
it is different.
we're not
But I
here-
do agree that, if we from a very young age put a negative view into a specific group of people, career, whatever, that could definitely expand into, the
No, my statement,
years.
my statement has nothing to do with attack. I'm just, I
No, I know. I didn't mean
I
to say it that
strongly
way, but-
believe in many of the issues that we have are connected with our mindset.
For sure,
So we need to change that mindset.
for sure.
So
I mean, it's a lot because there's many mindsets that need to change.
Yes.
So so civilian mindsets could be more positive looking,
more
but also
respectful.
right. Police mindset could also be more empathetic to certain
And
communities
respectful.
and respectful. So we see that throughout. I don't know that that necessarily is happening in Yonkers, but there's always improvement because
Correct.
the whole police department can't be perfect. So which means there's always things that we can do to better ourselves as a city, as a police department, as people. And like you said,
So, we in Yonkers, the people of Yonkers, do understand how stressful your job is, how intense it is, and we respect you. But we also want you to respect us. Okay, now, Corazon, is there anything that maybe I forgot to ask you that you want to talk about? Or do you feel that we addressed everything, or most of the things?
I think we addressed most of the things, but I'd love to do this again. It was always good to circle back on things that were mentioned or new things that come about. So I'm happy to come back and have another cyber town hall.
That's it.
Yeah.
So,
another time.
guys, thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Put your questions on our page. Corazon, as time permits, she will look at it and she will answer some of the questions that she feels deserve to be answered. She's a busy woman. She's doing the work that she was elected for. She cannot be on the social media, even though I wish she was all the time. But she will address those questions as she can. So thank you for watching once again. Ask your questions, make suggestions, and if you have anything that you think it's important to say that the people of Yonkers need to know, or can improve, get in touch with us. yv.support@yonkersvoice.com. Till next time. Thank you, Corazon.
Thank you.